For months on end, workers marched in the streets, clamoring for a 4% increase in salaries, which was agreed to, but which the government insisted that it was unable to pay because of a narrow fiscal space made tighter by COVID-19. Early in the game, the administration refused to provide timelines for the payment, saying it did not want to commit to a date and then failed to pay because of an inability to do so. Teachers were among the most militant, and with the advent of a new school year looming, the government relented and announced that it would be making the payments in August. Pots, pans, horns, fireworks. Some of the instruments used to ring in praises in honor of frontline workers who bore the brunt of the COVID-19 onslaught. Trade unionists then argued, if the government so appreciated their work, then don't just pay lip service. Show that it cares by regularizing those on contracts and granting them proper wages so that they don't leave Grenada for more lucrative jobs overseas.
As we sit here to extend the state of emergencies, as we sit here and we give praises to them to the walls of Parliament, they are not seeing these recognitions in their paycheck and in their working conditions. One of the better ways of recognizing their contribution is to ensure that they all receive, those who are not permanent be made permanent, because it impacts the delivery.
It was apparent to some that the government was paying the trade unionists no mind until now. Well, until last Friday's budget was presented.
To announce that all frontline public sector workers, defined as all officers of the Royal Grenada Police Force, along with medical personnel and ancillary workers in the Ministry of Health, who physically performed and continue to perform, and by virtue of their duties were exposed to the risk of COVID-19, will receive an additional month's pay during the month of December.
President of the Public Workers Union, Brian Grimes, thinks the government has finally started to listen.
I think there are a number of reasons that the government had what we would call a generous budget. I spoke to the absolute need that they must have done it. I think the hyperactivity of the trade unions in this period contributed to it. Also the workers speaking out, because government had a lot of consultations with workers, health sector workers, police officers, and they spoke to the suffering, the economic suffering and other things. So I think that contributed.
But how much of the listening and response has been brought about by recent developments on the political landscape?
But certainly, the political landscape, how it has transformed in recent times, have provided, I think, some sort of motivation for the incumbent government. In that, in any field, competition is necessary. We see what the president of Digicel did with cable and wireless, what it did for the consumers. The same is said with politics and with our citizens. When there is balance in the political playing field, in our democracy, our citizens benefit. So I think the emergence of new leadership within the National Democratic Congress has sort of piqued the interest of the incumbent government and put them on their toes, because they may have been a bit lackadaisical.
Economist Michael Motley assessed the 2022 budget during GBN's Beyond the Headlines program Monday night. He says the timing of moves taken by politicians will always be questioned, and whereas governments need to respond, political parties also need to think about winning elections.
So the challenge is always going to be striking the balance between a level of fairness as well as being able to manage and govern in such a way, but at the same time, a politician really needs to get re-elected. So that is always going to be a part of the equation.
Cherry and Blackman, Stephen, GBN News.